Ask away.
We're wanted men.
Welcome to episode 156 of the Smugglers Galaxy Podcast, your favorite Star Wars podcast for smugglers in the galaxy. Finally, we had Ahsoka start this week. We'll get to that in a minute. Rebels Season 5, finally after 2 years of waiting. 5 years of waiting and 2 years after 2 years seeing it.
I was just saying Rebel Season 5. I wasn't
Rebel Season 5. Yes, Rebel Season 5. I've been waiting like 5 or 6 years for this, and then knowing it's 2 years after seeing it at Celebration. So, wow. Anyway, Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
well enough for being, hey, you want to record now? And you're like,
let's
do it. I ain't got nothing going on.
I just got up from a nap.
Oh, dude, me too. Isn't that great? Isn't a mid-afternoon
Twinning.
nap? Huh?
We're twinning.
Yes. But I bet I did something you didn't do this morning.
Go for a run?
Yeah, well, I didn't go for a run. No, we went, my wife's works for a credit union, and they had a big thing for CHOA, like a bowl-a-thon, and we went bowling at like 8:30 this morning. So which means you're up at 6 and you're leaving the house at like 7:30 and bowling at 9 o'clock, and they had a couple of people that didn't show up. I was like reserved or whatever. Actually, my wife couldn't register me because she waited too long or whatever. And then 2 people didn't show up, and then I ended up bowling like 6 games. And I wonder why I'm sore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're using muscles you don't normally use on Saturday mornings.
Right. And I bowled 6 games of bowling.
Yeah.
Or is it? Yeah, I guess it is bowled 6 games of bowling. I don't know. And then, of course, while we were leaving, my wife's like, that's kind of fun. I want to get better and maybe get my own ball. And I'm like, you do realize if you get your own ball, that kind of automatically makes yourself better because you're not using the crappy balls that are at the bowling alley and it's made for you and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, okay. And that's sort of where we left it.
And are we going to remember this later on? Or are we going to...
Maybe. I don't know. It's like I need another hobby. I'd love to take up bowling, but I need another hobby. Like I have need a hole in the head.
Mm.
But I think it'd be fun to take it up just to have something to do when I'm not doing everything else.
Did you pick anything up this week? I don't have any cool stories like that. Sorry.
I don't think I did. I didn't know. I did. The only thing I did was the Ahsoka Micro Galaxy Squadron pre-release or thing.
Pre-order.
And that pre-order, and that's kind of a story in and of itself because I kept watching you and Sam talk about it, and you were kind of in the know when it comes to Micro Galaxy Squadron stuff, and we basically watched it all day and waited for it to be released, and then at 8 o'clock at night it came out.
Yeah, something like that. There's a rumor it was supposed to go up noon Eastern Standard Time. Didn't go up, and then people were like online, they were saying 2 o'clock, it should be 2 o'clock, and then 2 o'clock came around, they're like, well, maybe they meant 12 Pacific Standard Time, which is 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And no, it was just late.
Freaking pre-orders.
But I did pre-order that. I did get the vintage collection Tusken Warrior with the Massif. It's the little dog thing.
Oh, is it is one like for $25 or whatever?
I think it was actually more than that.
Jesus,
32 or something like that. But I got it. It's getting expensive out there, kids.
Oh, dude, I am fearing the Amazon hit next month or in a couple of weeks.
What'd you buy?
Well, because I've got the Lego Ghost, I've got the Ahsoka Lego Starship, then you've got the TVC Sabine. Then you got the Black Series Ahsoka. Then you got the Black Series Sabine. Then the Ahsoka, not Ahsoka, Hera. And what else? Then I've got the TVC Thrawn. I got 2 of those ordered. And then, of course, all the Micro Galaxy stuff that's finally coming out that's been in stores for 6 months, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
The Y-Wing and the whatever, the N1 Starfighter and the TIE Bomber and the TIE Interceptor and something else.
Yeah, I want the TIE Interceptor.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I picked up on Deal or No Deal was a set of average store ads used for Micro Machines.
Yeah.
It doesn't say Micro Machines on it, but the Star Wars logo is in the shape of the Action Fleet logo.
And it does have that feel to it.
Yeah. It's Ralph McQuarrie painted this stuff for Galoob. He did a couple paintings to go with the toys, like as a sticker on the back, and they reused it for the advertisement. So I got 3 of the ones that kind of slide into the metal display. The metal, it's like part of the system. You just slide it in. And then there was also a thing that kind of hangs from the ceiling. It spins around. It's got 2 sides, and there was supposed to be a TIE fighter and Darth Vader's TIE fighter and an X-wing at the bottom that kind of just dangle.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't come with that, but yeah, like this is something I've been after for a long time, is trying to find some store display ad work for Micro Machines, and here I got 4 of them in one shot.
Awesome. And if that's many, I mean, I saw you make the bid, and if you got it for the last bid I saw you make, if it's like 4 pieces of stuff, you did pretty good.
Yeah, so it's supposed to arrive today. I'm looking right now for the mailman. Mail person.
Your mailman comes this late?
Well, in the app, you can do the informed delivery, and it says it's still supposed to be delivered by 9 today, but I doubt it. I don't think I'm getting this until Monday.
Right. That's that sucks. Oh, I did pick up I just remembered on eBay, I picked up a Bill and Ted. It's supposed to be a promo card of some kind, but I couldn't really tell because the guy kept going, on the back it's different. The back of the card's different. A baseball card, baseball size card.
Yeah.
And he kept on saying the back's different. It's got some stats or something on the back of it, and I never could figure out how to see the back because I just kind of took a risk on it because it was like $15. So I guess we'll see when it gets here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was not. I'm at the point with the we got the Ghost, and then we had I don't know, did I talk about the way that the my W-2s kind of got messed up or something, that the government wasn't taking enough money out?
Oh no.
For so I kept looking
strap in people. Here comes an accounting story.
Oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, but apparently the government has changed how they're taking taxes out of your checking account or your check. Yeah. And it's not enough taxes, so they stopped taking what they need to take out. And when I contacted my HR department, they were like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. And then Mandy did some research and was like, well, we need to be taking out like $100 more a paycheck for both of us to break even. So like there went like $300-400 a month, just like that.
Bummer.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to Star Wars, you're going to be selling that Ghost the second you get it.
Yeah, of course.
You don't want it. You don't have to sell it.
No.
Awesome.
Yeah. I sold stuff to buy that Ghost. I sold stuff to buy that Ghost. It's not going anywhere. That Ghost is coming in hot and heavy in a year.
Yeah. If we're lucky.
Yeah. Dude, that's the part that sucks is the pre-order stuff when it takes that long. It just you
have to wait. But the thing was, so this week Hasbro did the Q&A with their fan channels. And one of the questions Chris Reif said, and this can't make any sense, but he said like they're nearing the end of production for the Ghost, which, like I said, doesn't make any sense. He said that the version they show is a production version.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you? I mean, did they start production the second they hit 10K or whatever the number was? Was it 8 or 10?
It was 8.
Because it's just like, I think he misspoke because production can't be done on it.
No. Unless he's talking about production of the prototype. I don't know.
I don't think so, though. He did say that card backs and figures are exclusive to the HasLab.
Well, that's a good thing, but
Backers are
Backers.
sporadic. So you were talking about the Asia market being different than the US market.
Yeah.
And they sometimes manually put those numbers into the US market system. So they're both the same. It's not like there's 10,000 in Asia and 10,000 in the US. That number you see, there might be a lag, but that number is supposed to be the grand total.
Gotcha.
They did say no more extra tiers, but if Zeb is unlocked, Sabine and Chopper will be added to the line. They'll put them on that card back, and they didn't want to put Sabine and Chopper behind a really high paywall of like 25,000 that's unattainable, and then you've got 4 out of the 5.
Yeah, I'm heavy breathing on that one because I'm trying to think. I mean, it seemed to help the numbers, but nowhere near. It got like 500 extra more people to. I mean, Ezra's release, so they're at 11,548 right now. And since Ahsoka came out there, it's moving, but it's not moving as fast as it should. And I truthfully think they should have just said at 20,000, these two are added. And then maybe people would have backed it. I think they would have hit that number if they said at 20,000, here you go. Because I think it's a really crappy, I mean, it's cool that they said they're going to release it, but that's another, probably $50 for those 2 figures.
That'll be about $16, not 25, unless they'll be about that $16-17.
And yeah, so you're at like 30, and then with shipping, you're probably back up to like $40-$50 after shipping with those figures. Yeah. Maybe I should have done Hasbro Pulse Premium, but I could still do that if I want to. Long story short, I think if they would have gone ahead and just said, hey, at 20,000, we're releasing them. I think that number would have skyrocketed, because I think the number one, right after I hear I didn't want the ghost, I'm mad at the number second complaint is the figures, all 5 people should have been included. Yeah. And I think if they would have just right out the bat said, we hit 20,000, you get everybody, it would have been better. Hopefully
with that Sabine, they'll do a head swap, kind of like with Kanan. So you've got that ability. Yeah. And there was a lot of complaints about that Sabine helmet that would go over her head. It was just too big. And
the more I see it, somebody had in-hand pictures, and it is ridiculous looking.
Well, there's that playability factor, taking off the helmet and putting it back on as part of the show. And at least for Sabine, not for the Mandalorian Din, but it is. And it's part of the toy, and people care. And it's like, I feel like it's a lose-lose. If they do it one way, people will be upset that you can't take the helmet off. And they miss the old days of the classic vintage figures when you can take off Bausch's helmet.
Right. Well, Bausch's helmet was done a lot better, though, wasn't she? Hers?
Well, I don't think those are properly to scale. And they're more in scale, I think, in proportion of one another.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
It just looks like a bobblehead when you put that helmet on her. But truthfully, if it looks that bad, I'm not even going to bother with the helmet, because I think the face sculpt on that is really incredible.
Yeah, that's probably the way to go. Or buy another Bo-Katan and have someone customize that helmet for you so you can use that.
Dude, I really think somebody's going to do that anyway. Somebody would 3D print a helmet, and it'll be, I don't know, probably be another $50 freaking dollars. Hey, you know who's going to buy it?
You.
No, Narayan.
That crabby man.
Narayan will know one. Narayan will know somebody. We'll be getting a text here in a minute. This is who's doing it.
And then there's a lot of new people on the line. A lot of people who don't participate in that quarterly. Is it quarterly? I don't know. Q&As with Hasbro.
Uh-huh.
There's a couple smaller, I don't want to say smaller. There's a couple new YouTube channels. And one of them, they were asking softball questions. And one of them was, and this was interesting, where do you come up with the blue for the Black Series line for the Ahsoka part? Each entertainment, A New Hope has its own packaging art color. Empire is a blue, and Return of the Jedi is green. And they asked, where did the Ahsoka blue come from? And they said that for that one in particular, they were inspired by the stripes on her head. from the Clone Wars, so that's why it's that color blue.
Interesting.
And then someone complained about their Doc Ondor not having the beard,
right?
The Black Series figure, and they said they couldn't properly represent it correctly, which I call like BS. If you really wanted to, you could, but you plan on reusing that for Hammerhead, Mawada Madonna, whatever his name is from the Cantina. So they just make the Galaxy's Edge people quite upset, but they'll keep the rest of the fans happy by just reusing that for Hammerhead.
Right, and the Galaxy's Edge people are a lot less than the other.
Yep. So this is funny.
Yes.
He was on the line with the vintage collection people in Bantha Tracks, and they asked him if Salacious Crumb is going to have a number on the card back. And Chris said, we did make a decision, but I forgot what decision we made. And I'm like,
bullshit.
Yeah, like, no, you just don't want to rock the boat on this call. So you're not going to say that it does have it and then upset the people on the call, because it's just going to create a whole stir with the fans.
Right. Unless they're waiting for like next Friday when they have their big meeting or whatever.
Yeah, they have another live stream next week. This week.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like Friday. I thought it was yesterday. And no, it's next Friday, because I was like, I didn't hear anything. And then I looked and it's the 29th.
We'll see. And then there was other stuff. The only other thing that I wrote down was that, so there was a rumor that they're reissuing a bunch of Black Series figures, like 30 figures this holiday season. And they asked him to comment on it. And instead of saying it wasn't true, they just said, we're not going to comment on rumors of Black Series issues of figures being reissued. To which I'm like, if you've got something, you're not going to confirm it, because you can't confirm it. But if you don't have something, you can just simply say, no, that's not happening. So it's like, what?
Right. I heard him say that a couple of different times, like, oh, we can't comment on any of that kind of anything that's in the pipeline.
Yeah. And
it is kind of a half-ass excuse.
Last week, I have to do a retraction. Last week, I was talking about how we had dinner at PowerCon with the guy who invented Boglins, or created and developed Boglins, and I said his name was Tim Connor. It's Tim Clark. Tim Connor is obviously our neighbor.
Yeah, I was like, I know who you're thinking of, but that ain't the right guy.
That's not him. It was him.
It's Tim Clark, you said?
Tim Clark, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
you probably could have Googled that as you're telling the conversation.
Well, it's like, it's not an easy thing hosting these shows and trying to stay on topic, but then also trying to figure out what the next topic is, and if that topic relates to a thought that I've had 5 minutes ago, and how can I tie all that together? Like, sometimes the listening just flips off.
Right. Dude, it's hard to host a podcast. What?
Yeah. And especially when one guy wants to be more structured and the other one's like, we'll be fine.
Hey, you've got me taking notes, so
See?
I'm getting there.
Becoming professional podcasters.
Trying to become a professional podcaster.
Someday we'll take the training wheels off the side of this podcast.
And maybe we'll compete with Coffee with Kenobi, and they'll send us free crap. It'll be awesome. Finally.
Maybe. Then the only other thing that kind of came out this week, and if you watch the post-credit scene for Andor, where the little robots are putting together the Death Star dish.
Yeah.
In the back, we're like right at the start of it, as it pulls back. If you look at the back wall that's kind of in the distance, it's the walls from the trench run.
Oh. Which
was the trench run in the dish itself, because that's where they were assembling these pieces, if you go back and watch it.
Oh.
But that is an Easter egg. It is there. So maybe they just reuse those walls for different areas, and it happens to be in a couple places on the Death Star. But it is the wall. They scanned it and they added it to the scene.
The Star Wars. I keep saying it, man. Star Wars fans have too much time on their hands.
Yeah, I think that's fans everywhere. I don't think it's exclusive to Star Wars, and it seems like it could be worse in other hobbies.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, it is. Before we talk about Ahsoka, I kept finding myself wanting to jam in Heir to the Empire theories left and right. The way that you
Yeah.
keep trying to jam Sabine into every episode of The Mandalorian will be on next week. I'm like, oh, maybe this person's from Heir to the Empire. Maybe instead of this character, they're inserting this character instead, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. There's theories that I'm hearing about the is it Modak Mordork
Marrok.
and one of them totally is like, yeah, you're stretching there, and that's that there it's an Heir to the Empire where they're just like, really,
Mara
are you
Jade.
sure about that, huh?
You sure about that?
Are you sure
Mara
about
Jade?
that? Yes. Somebody's like, it's Mara Jade, and I'm like, no, come on.
Well,
Luke's already dead. Why would we be introducing Mara Jade now?
Yeah, we're gonna talk Ahsoka.
Oh, Luke isn't dead in Ahsoka, so sorry.
No, he's still alive. We're gonna talk Ahsoka, so I guess that's the end of the show for you.
Bye.
Spoiling if you haven't watched it yet, so make sure you watch it.
Yeah.
But now that I said that, I don't remember what I was gonna say. Speaking of trying to do 12 things at once. Yeah, with Heir to the Empire, Marrok. Let's just get into Marrok, I guess, real quick. Who's that?
Yeah.
He's a inquisitor-looking fellow who doesn't seem to report to Balin Skull, but Scroll or whatever. Skull or Scroll.
Whatever that
Skull.
wolf is called, because it's right from that wolf.
He seems to be like a gun for hire. He reminds me of Tron in Tron Legacy. He was like a supreme warrior, but he was kind of hired out by the guy who's really in charge.
Right.
So it kind of seemed like that was the relationship. He was obviously a force user. He's able to go up against Ahsoka, which is not the easy thing to do because she was trained by Anakin Skywalker. So some of that strength and agility kind of translated to her. But yeah, the theory is that's obviously Ezra Bridger. That's the easy one. But there's plot holes or questions that arise if that is Ezra.
Right.
Should we do the Ezra theory real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. And then
so as Ezra was playing with the dark side throughout all of Rebels.
Right.
So it's easy to think that without family, he might have fallen to the dark side and became an inquisitor. But the problem with that is that the last we saw Ezra, he and Thrawn were being pulled out into hyperspace. Both have been lost a long time. So how did Ezra find his way back? And Thrawn stuck somewhere. How did Ezra become an agent of the dark side somewhere along the way and then left Thrawn? Or if he left Thrawn, how did he fall to the dark side? And why is he present in the galaxy and Thrawn's not? There's just a lot there.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is if he was able to get away from Thrawn, is that some kind of way he went to the dark side and was able to trap Thrawn and get away. But then why would he be hunting him to bring him back?
Yeah. I don't know.
Unless maybe he had a change of heart and is now, or maybe it was the fact that it was he was the only one that could get out, and Thrawn's like, find me when you can. And I could totally, because I've here's other theories. So I've heard Mara Jade, I've heard Kanan, and I've heard Darth Maul.
Obviously not Kanan, unless it's some sort of heir to the Empire. The whole Luke thing and Mara Jade being an apprentice. The cool thing was it's got a more of a male physique, so I don't think it would be a Mara Jade. Or
right.
I saw people online, Barriss Offee, coming back as that, but it's more of a manly shape, and I don't think Barriss doesn't have that. Mara Jade, I don't think would have that.
No.
So it's Ezra. But if they do like the hand of the Jedi, hand of the Emperor, which was Mara Jade, maybe they're going to pull in Starkiller from Force Unleashed, who was Darth Vader's apprentice. So you have Anakin's apprentice versus Darth Vader's apprentice, which I thought was a pretty cool idea.
That would be kind of cool. And that guy's still around too, isn't he? The guy that played.
Yeah, Sam Witwer.
Okay.
But if they
oh yeah, because he also did Darth Maul, the voice of
Darth Maul, yeah. So that's the other theory, and then the wild card, like I said, was the heir to the Empire, Luke with the 2 U's, that it's a clone Luke Skywalker being used against Luke Skywalker or something.
Now let me ask. Now, would we see Luke pop back into to Ahsoka to fight Luke if it's a clone?
No, because Ahsoka didn't pop in the original trilogy to help Luke, so they're already odds with each other.
But Luke popped in the Mandalorian to help get Baby Yoda, and Ahsoka popped into Mandalore. I don't know.
There's too many Jedis alive in this time period. They're supposed to be just Luke.
Right. Was it Book of Boba Fett that he went to get Baby Yoda back?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's how. Yeah.
Yeah, one whole episode was Baby Yoda being trained by Luke.
All right. Yeah, it's I was talking to Chance today, and he's like, he's loving the fact that they're intertwining stuff. But then again, like with the conversation we're having, what episode did that happen on? And then you're like, oh, it wasn't even a Mandalorian. It was Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. I don't know if episode numbers are more important than story beats.
Gotcha.
Story points.
But the way that they're shooting stuff now, I think it's story beats, not episodes. It's all going to be intertwined here soon. So it already is intertwined.
Part 1 was called Master and Apprentice, written and directed by Dave Filoni. The title could refer to Baylan and Shin Hati, or it could refer to Ahsoka and Sabine. There's a lot more focus on Sabine in the episodes, where I felt like it should have been called Sabine and not Ahsoka.
Well, it should have been called Rebels Season 5, not Ahsoka. But Dave Filoni's got to get that in there.
I did like that the show started on a very threatening note, almost like a danger, like with the scroll coming by. That
just felt very Andor / Rogue One.
Yeah,
where there was just tension, like right off the bat.
Very tense. But it was a lot like the movies crawl. So it felt more Star Wars, and I like that it was going up at a horizontal parallel to the viewer. It's not going out into space, so it was a little bit different. Like, this is the TV world, and we're going to do it this way. Mm-hmm. I did like that he pulled in terms like sinister agents, which was in the original A New Hope scroll.
Right.
So I like that a lot. The breakout scene I had some issues with.
Yeah. Well, let me talk.
Hell's an idiot.
Yeah, let me talk to the scroll. I was excited. It was like it took me back, because it was like, how long has it been since we've seen a scroll? And we've never, like you said, we've never seen it in TVs. It's always been in the movies. And the last movie was Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yep.
And then boom, we got a scroll in Ahsoka. So, but yes, go to the breakout scene.
The captain of the ship is Captain Hale. You might know him from Shawshank Redemption and Rush Hour, and there's another movie he was in, famous movie. But he got, so it was like an old Jedi code, old Jedi clearance codes, which was familiar to Return of the Jedi, kind of the same thing, old codes getting into the Death Star, into the Endor.
It's an old code, sir, but it checks out.
Yeah, so it's the same kind of thing, but he's like, I'm going to call their bluff and let them on the ship. And I'm like, you've got dangerous criminals. Can you imagine like a bus transporting a bunch of criminals from one county jail to the other, and someone knocks on the door and says, I need to get in.
Right.
Why? Because I'm an actor. Well, let me see. Come on the bus and show me your acting abilities. Oh, whoops! What's happening? Why am I getting shot up by this guy now? It's like,
why am I dead?
New Republic procedure should, maybe this is them showing that the New Republic's a mess and like people don't follow protocol, but it seemed like a mess. Like, this guy's an idiot. Don't let anyone on your ship.
Yeah. Unless maybe he was like, you know what, we're better than them. So I've got all the guns and you've got 2 people. So come on aboard. Let's see what happens.
I did like the flip of Baylan declaring, allow me to show you my identification.
Yeah.
Which is the flip of Obi-Wan. You don't need to see our identification.
Yeah. And then that girl just totally started kicking butt.
Shin Hati.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like, you always hear those interviews with George Lucas. It's like poetry. It rhymes. And you've got a couple beats here. That's the same thing with Obi-Wan and Baylan and the sinister agents and the old clearance codes. So I thought it was a good opening.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The CGI was better there than it was at the Ahsoka fight.
Which one?
The one with the battle droids. They're HK droids.
Oh,
We'll get there. We'll get there. Sorry.
well, that one is stagecraft where they use the volume. Sorry,
Right.
The void is the 3D space. The volume is the 3D area that they use to shoot the show. They used that for the show, but then everything was like almost real stage.
Gotcha.
In the breakout scene, almost, not all of it.
Right. Okay.
The other thing I wanted to say, Balin, so they break out Morgan Elsbeth, who we've seen in the Mandalorian. She's the one that went up against Ahsoka. The one thing I liked about Balin is that he's hulking.
Mhm.
He's got wide shoulders. He's got a cape as long as Vader. He's got the same size and shape of Vader minus the mask, which I just like. Oh, that's interesting. It's like, is he becoming the next
Right.
Emperor or next Vader or something? Like, what is his ambitions? Because he's imposing.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's interesting to see a bad guy without a mask.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't have a mask yet.
Right.
And then
he'll need to have one next season.
Yeah. Ray Stevenson.
Is that too soon?
No, maybe it is. I don't know. But we cut to Ahsoka, who's at this temple that's in disarray and in ruins. Some of these shots look just like they came straight out of the Clone Wars. It's almost like it's tough to tell. It's just really close to that, and I like that a lot. She's looking for a map. She finds the map, and that's when your HK buddies pop out. She's got 5 of them she's got to take care of.
The HKs look great. The thing that threw me off about that scene was the holes in the ground. They just were very poorly done. Where she had cut the hole to get down into the temple.
Yeah.
It was like, why did, I don't know. It started to take me out, but then I had to say it's a TV show, not a movie. And just deal with it.
Just move on.
Yeah.
The aliens in the wall of the temple looked a lot like there was about maybe 7 aliens that Yoda encountered at the end of the Clone Wars, and they helped him, evolve in the Force almost.
Mm-hmm.
You remember those?
I'd have to go rewatch that episode. Is that the Yoda arc where he goes to wherever, Dagobah, and learns everything?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of those aliens that help him through his way.
And I've also seen the people referring to them as like Night Sisters. So they could be both.
Okay.
Because it was a Night Sisters temple.
Yes. Well, we find that out later.
Right.
We don't know this yet. We're still discovering the show.
Yes. Sorry.
No, it's fine. We learned that Ahsoka did not follow standard Jedi protocol to get Morgan Elsbeth to tell her about the map to Thrawn.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
She's no Jedi, man.
She's no Jedi, so she's able to use some Force chokes. I mean, that's not right.
Well, she really wants that freaking map.
Balin, we cut to home 1. Well, we've last seen this in Return of the Jedi. I don't know if you noticed, but the ghost was hanging out in the hangar.
Kelly showed me that this morning. I need to go back and see that. I did not notice that.
Yeah, it's from a distance, but you can tell it's the ship, and then you kind of see the control room in the hangar, and off on the right-hand side in the lower part of the screen, you can kind of see part of the ghost. But here, Ahsoka and Hera meet up in the meeting room, which we saw in Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Ahsoka asks Hu Yang. I think that's the droid's name.
Oh yeah, it does. It's close enough.
He's been helping Padawans for generations help build lightsabers. So he's got a whole database of lightsabers, and she asks the droid to check them out, get a recording of it, and identify the lightsabers. Then she tells Hera that the map might possibly lead to Ezra. There's a Mon Calamari that kind of yells down to Hera.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that Akbar? But it was too far away and too quick to make a total determination, but I don't think it was. Hera pushes Ahsoka to reach out to Sabine and get her help because she might need it.
Right.
That's when we cut to Lothal, and we see a bunch of E-Wings flying overhead. Clancy Brown reprises his role from Star Wars Rebels as Governor Ryder Azadi.
Right. That took me... found that that clicked in my head, like after as you're laying down, going to sleep, you're like, oh crap, that's the same guy.
Yeah, and I wonder if Filoni came back to voice some of Chopper. So are those the two people who came back to reprise it in live action? He also introduces Senator Jai Kell, who we also saw in Rebels. He was one of Ezra's friends. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Right, and he was in the Battle of the Thal. He was the one that flew the Ghost to get the Purgles.
Yeah, see, yeah, this guy knows his stuff. I don't. So yeah, it's just cool to see more connections to Rebels. Like that's real history that all happened.
That part felt so cheesy to me, but maybe it just, I don't know. I find acting like that cheesy, where they're all like fake celebrating and stuff.
Yeah, that's their Independence Day. I think if you look around it from another country, looking at someone celebrate their independence, you're like, this is all forced. What is this? It means nothing to you. It means everything to them. Right.
And I know I appreciated it, but I also love the line where he's like, several years ago, instead of just, dude, you could have told us exactly, and all the speculation over the past 5 years, you could have set the timeline perfect with a throwaway line that you didn't even put in.
I mean, when Filoni was writing the episode, he didn't know, so he just decided many years ago. He couldn't remember. He had too much going on. So,
just sure thing. Dave Filoni remembers what C-3PO's bottom of C-3PO's feet look like. He knows how long that timeline is.
This celebration is celebrating the defeat of the Empire and the liberation of Lothal, thanks to Ezra. They have the mural that Sabine painted. It's to memorialize the entire effort to liberate Lothal. And Sabine is supposed to speak, but she's not there. She's racing down a highway in her speeder. A couple of E-Wings find her and attempt to stop her, but she's so dangerous and she's so lethal.
Punk rock, dude. She's punk rock, man. Come on, rock. She was playing punk rock on the radio, man.
Yeah, the Illuminati. What's their names? It's the singer of the Illuminati something or others. Hotties. Yeah. Illuminati Hotties. It's the lead singer. She sang the song for this, but so the E-Wings try to stop her. She's probably stir crazy. She's probably left alone. If Rebels is her found family, none of them are around anymore. She's all alone. She's all by herself, and she's missing Ezra. So no wonder why she's a little rebellious and kind of like, tired of sitting around. She wants to do something, so she's acting out.
Yeah.
But
it took me a minute to get used to that Sabine, because I'm used to the Sabine we saw at the end of the second episode, not the Sabine we saw through the first 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, the character arc of going from like a rebellious spirit to rebellion leader,
right? To being a leader, you're right. To being I'm done.
I'm back.
To being I'm back. But I love that song, dude. That song was like, it was. I really thought that was a proper way to introduce Sabine to people that don't know who she is. Yeah. As like the rebellion, because even though she was being more rebellious than normal and not wanting to, I just dealing with her demons. She was still dealing with her demons from the Rebels season and from losing everybody.
Yeah.
It was just that was Sabine. That's the Sabine we kind of saw her in Rebels, but we didn't really get to see her until that speeder bike moment.
What did you think when she's watching Ezra's last message to her?
That was probably the 3rd time I cried. I thought the guy, whoever's playing, I don't know the guy's name off the top of my head, but that guy freaking nailed it, because he even did like the head thing where Ezra's like, oh man, I was like, oh my God, that's Ezra. And it was interesting to see that he recorded a different recording for Sabine, because him and Sabine, you don't really know how close they are. Are they brother and sister? Are they boyfriend, girlfriend?
And no, they're brother and sister. Yeah.
That puts it as them being brother and sister.
Yep. I agree.
So it was very touching to see that. If you want to know the first time I cried, it was seeing Hera and knowing it's like, we're here. You know what I mean? It's like it's happening.
Yeah.
It's finally time. Let's go.
Back on the planet that got destroyed, that temple planet, Shinhati asks Morgan Elsbeth what the planet was, and Morgan says that it's a temple built by the Night Sisters of Dathomir. She is a Night Sister. She's a survivor. So, and she does seem to have some like witch-like powers, which is interesting. Shin, we get a close look on her. She's got Padawan braids. She is sent to Lothal to find Sabine. And then we cut back to Lothal, and Sabine is having a nightmare about Ezra. Off on the left, we do see Ezra's painted scout trooper helmet from the show. Ahsoka arrives, and it's shot straight out of the beginning part of the epilogue from Rebels.
Yeah.
To kind of cue you in that we're here.
Right.
We're 5 years later.
It was interesting. Yeah, we can get to the epilogue in a minute. I'm jumping ahead, so we'll get there.
There's a reunion between Sabine and Ahsoka. There's some catch up here for I would say the problem with the show is that it's a sequel to a sequel to a sequel. It's a sequel to Rebels, it's a sequel to The Mandalorian, it's a sequel to Return of the Jedi.
Right. And it's the start of Filoni universe, the Mandoverse.
And so you kind of need all those prerequisites to understand what's going on. But even with all those prerequisites, I was taken aback because I'm like, wait a minute, Sabine was never Ahsoka's Padawan.
Right.
So sometime in those 5 years 5 years since the last episode of Rebels and to now, Sabine was taken up as a Padawan. So A, I guess she's got Force abilities. That's news to me. And B, okay, they were master and apprentice. Who knew?
Right. I think the epilogue, the timeline in the epilogue was 5 to 10 years after the end of Rebels.
Yeah.
So I think you're in that 5 to 10 year range, and there's a lot of time in there. There's a lot that can happen in that 5 to 10 years.
I thought the whole Mandoverse was 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Okay. I heard that. Well, I'm going back to the epilogue. That the epilogue was 5 to 10 years after.
Yeah,
Rebels.
we're clearly in that range right now.
We're right there
because they duplicated shots from that.
Yeah.
So there was some communicate. There was some catching up I had to do. I was taken aback by that whole fact. Yeah, freaking Facebook. I'm sorry. I reported a bunch of people on Facebook because it's the spam links. You're supposed to click on, and it's like happening everywhere. So I report them.
Yeah.
And Facebook comes back and says, I'm sorry, this does not go against our community standards. I'm like, it's spam.
Yes.
It's trying to fish people and get their password.
Right. That's why you do a two-part authentication.
Yeah.
So we're in that 5 to 10 years.
Yep. Sabine and Ahsoka catch up. They're looking at the map, and Ahsoka's asking for Sabine's help, and Sabine's like, "Yeah, I can help you." And so Ahsoka goes learn about the lightsabers and Balin's saber and all that, and the new one's an apprentice, and so it's a new lightsaber. And when she comes back, Sabine is taken off to the communication tower with the map. Hu Yang reminds me a lot of Episode 1 C-3PO. He seems very puppeted, which I love.
Right, and he also reminds me of K2SO a little bit.
How so?
Maybe it's his cadence.
Maybe.
Another part you forgot, and it was very fast. Sabine finds her old bunk in Ahsoka's ship, and she still has all the drawings are there still.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So no, it's fine. It's just that's what I'm here for, man. The color,
the little details.
But
yeah, like I could see with Hu Yang, they had some sort of attachment to his arms, and they were moving it from behind, and then they just digitally erased the people operating him.
Yeah, there again, you just got to kind of suspend reality and be like, it's a really thin droid. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. No, I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked the jerky motions and stuff. As Sabine races to the communication tower, a probe droid discovers her. And this is, again, Filoni copying, rhyming with Episode 1. Like, these shots are exactly like Darth Maul finding Qui-Gon, with the droid and lining up to make the next move and stuff like that. So,
yeah. I definitely felt Darth Maulish, especially, she even had the cloak over her head. And it was totally Episode 1 all over again.
Sabine turns on a holoprojector to see the map that the room that the map came from. and it's almost like you can hear Purgles in the background. I don't know if it was just me making something of nothing, but that's what it sounded like.
Dude, I will while you're right there, since you brought up the noises and sounds and stuff, if you didn't watch Rebels or Clone Wars, man, you missed all the music cues. The music cues. I mean, it's like every time they showed somebody from Rebels, there's their theme. Anytime something's happening that refers back to either Rebels or Clone Wars, the music is exactly from that show. So it just, you're hearing their themes, or you're hearing like the theme from Rebels, and you're just like, crap. Because being a musician and being into music, when you hear that, it takes you right back to that moment when you first saw it, and all the emotion just bubbles up.
Yeah, I guess I have nothing to say. I did recognize a couple themes here and there, but some of it didn't sound very cinematic. It felt more TV to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, dude, it's TV. I mean,
but
yeah.
We cut back to the ship with Ahsoka, and there's a projection of Hera there. I find this interpretation of Hera to be perfect.
Yes.
I think she's very warm and very loving and motherly, and she's looking for the best for everyone, and she's pushing everyone to take the next step, do whatever they have to do to become the best version of themselves.
Right. I was talking to Kelly this morning, and he was like, something's missing from Hera. And I'm like, dude, she was 90% hologram, and that's 2 episodes. So the majority of the time we saw her, she was a hologram. So we didn't really get to feel her out. And I'm like, dude, you got to remember, you got a big time jump. So there's a lot of changes that happen with her. I'm happy now that I've seen the TV, because I wasn't sure, because you saw all the promos. You're like, I can accept her as Sabine. I can accept Sabine. Sabine is, I think they nailed Sabine and Hera because of all the makeup. It's the same thing like with Ahsoka, where you've got to deal with the makeup and just the change in the character from a cartoon to live action. And after seeing these 2 episodes, she's got Hera. That Hera is pretty perfect. Yeah, I couldn't ask for a better Hera.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think she does a great job with it.
Right.
And I don't have any issues with the color of her skin or the eye color. Like, people were trying to pick out all these little details, but it's fine. We're moving on.
Now that you see her in live action, the eye color is gone. You don't notice it as you will in a picture, because you're sitting there nitpicking that picture. But then when you see it in live action, it just does the eye color just kind of disappears. It's not as big of a deal. And I did notice rewatching Rebels that Hera, it's the cartoon version of those characters, has very pronounced eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like you could have probably got away without doing that in live action, but I guess they wanted to keep that because it's with all the characters have very pronounced eyes in Rebels. It's just the style the drawing they did, and they could have got away without doing it, but they decided to do it for Hera. And you know what? When you see her, like I said, when you see her walking around, it disappears. You don't notice it as much.
So yeah, good Hera.
Yes.
And Ahsoka, in their conversation, Ahsoka does say, like, sometimes the right reasons have the wrong consequences. And here she's regretting leaving Anakin. She left for the right reasons, but there was consequences because of that. She feels like if she had stayed, she might be able to save Anakin from turning into Darth Vader. So I thought that was an interesting piece of character, that there's a lot of subtext there. Sabine tries to figure out how to open the map. I never like scenes like this in the movies where it's all in someone's head. They're thinking really hard. They try to come up with something, and then they come up with something. Like, there's more cinematic ways to do that, but maybe in terms of keeping things within an hour, they couldn't explore that. So the star map is leading them to another galaxy, going from one place to another. But the HK assassin droids show up. They steal the map. They destroy her files, and then Sabine grabs Ezra's lightsaber to chase. And for the first time in live action, we get 2 women in a lightsaber battle.
Oh, yeah.
Shin and Sabine battle it out. I felt like they were very intermediate. Like, we've always seen these well-polished Jedis, the super, you get your Obi-Wans and your Anakins who are master swordsmen. This felt like 2 Padawans, which I thought was really cool. It didn't seem like they were because even Anakin as a Padawan was advanced, like he was a master, or he was moving like a master, which I don't know if was right or not, but I like that it seemed like very rough and rusty and intermediate, and like I like that. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like how the bad what's her the girl, the bad girl, she was
Shin.
using her cape to
Shinhachi.
Shinhati to kind of hide from Sabine, and you realize everybody's like Sabine with a lightsaber, and it's like, dude, do you know Rebels? You haven't seen Sabine fight with a lightsaber, and you just realize that she's still a badass even without having trained for years. If she can hold her own, pretty much held her own against a Padawan that's going through training right now.
But in the end, Sabine gets stabbed in the abdomen, instantly making Qui-Gon Jinn scream from the Force, because he should be alive. If that movie was made 25 years later, he'd be alive. Because when you think about it, the Grand Inquisitor was stabbed, he lived. Now you've got Sabine stabbed with a lightsaber, she lived, but Qui-Gon, poor Qui-Gon, he's dead.
Yeah, well, that's the difference with Dave Filoni directing stuff and George Lucas. Dave Filoni will not kill any of his people until it's time to kill one of his creations. And it was not time to kill Sabine.
No, it wasn't. But she heals.
Yes.
Spoiler alert for our next episode, which we can get into right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll try to rush through this. Episode 2 was called Toil and Trouble, directed by Steph Green and written by Dave Filoni. Toil and Trouble, obviously, comes from Macbeth. Double toil and trouble, meaning the more you work for what you're after, Macbeth, which is to become the king, the more trouble you're going to bring into your life. So I thought, how does this relate into the episode? And I haven't really figured that out yet. The harder you work for something, the more trouble, the more difficult it'll be.
Yeah. Let me ponder that, and I'll get back to you.
Ahsoka's listening to Sabine's dream. That's where we open in the hospital, and Sabine is in a bed. But we open on Ahsoka, and she's like listening to Sabine's dreams through the Force, which was an interesting Force power we've never seen before.
Right. I did not really. Yeah, you're right. Now, okay. Now, yeah, right.
Ahsoka goes back to the communication tower after fighting with Sabine in the hospital. Sabine wants to help, and Ahsoka ends it with, "You've done enough." We cut to what is it called? I have it here. Ethos. What?
With her at the communication tower, Ahsoka running through it. Do you think she was getting Force echo, or that was just?
Yes.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I think she was sensing things through the Force, which we haven't got to that scene yet. But yeah, no.
Yeah, you were just talking about it.
Well, she goes there, but then we cut back to the seat. She leaves to the communication tower, and then we cut to Cetos.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And then we cut back to the
okay, sorry.
Like the people at home really care, or the people listening really care. Whatever, nerds, just keep going. But Balin is there with Shin, and they're looking up into the sky, and you can hear the Purgles, and someone's like, "There's one there. There's a Purgle there," and I'm like, I don't see it, and not until I saw a reel where I was able to watch it over and over and over and over again, and I see the Purgle. The second you see it, they cut away.
Yeah,
it's so quick,
and it's in the cloud, so it's not very easy.
No, it's not easy at all. You have to know exactly where to look, because once you see it, like I said, it cuts away. This is Ahsoka back at the communication tower. She's using the Force to sense the battle. It's almost like she can watch it all over again, or just feel how it happened.
It's Sense Echo, man, from Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to hear some nerd shit? Yeah. Here's some nerd shit.
Let's turn this nerd crap into overdrive. She does find the HK droid hiding in Sabine's place, and she takes the head to Sabine. Sabine hacks the head, and she learns that the Morgan Elsbeth had a factory on Corellia, and that's where the HK droid originates from. I also wanted to mention what.
Who's from? You may be getting there. Mention your thing, and then I'll bring it back.
I just wanted to mention that Hu Yang in this episode feels more like Alfred from Batman than C-3PO or any other protocol droids. Like, he felt he felt like an alpha, like a wise old man who's helping things out. So I kind of dig that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be his role. Is just sort of the wise old man role.
So yeah, who's from Corellia? I don't
Yeah.
what's that?
Han Solo.
Oh,
Actually, it's a pretty big shipyard because the Millennium Falcon and the Ghost both come from Corellia because they're called Corellian, blah, 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 whatever the code letters are, letters and words behind it.
YT 144 Narayan's yelling at us.
We'll be getting an email from Narayan on Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever.
I'm sure any other day I could think about it, but now that I'm trying to think about what to say next, I can't think about it.
Right, but both the Ghost and the Millennium Falcon come from Corellia.
Corellian freighters.
Right.
But yeah, so we cut back to Cetos. Morgan is using her magic in full Night Sister gear to pull the map out and expand it and see that they've got to take a direct line from where they are to the other galaxy where Thrawn is. The only issue is that it's far away, and I don't think they have enough power to do it, because what happens at the end, I think they get enough power. And she says that Thrawn is calling to her from across time and space, which I'm like, world between worlds. Is he trapped? World between worlds?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for World Between Worlds. I am more feeling that all the graphic design is leaning more towards a map than World Between Worlds, but I don't doubt that we're going to see we're either going to see World Between Worlds, or we're going to see them harness the power of a Purgle. Figure out how to do that.
Morgan leaves, and Shin wonders what happens when they find Thrawn, like what's going to happen to them. And Baylan says, for some war, for others a new beginning. And she asks, what about us? Or what about you? And he says, power beyond anything they can conceive or imagine. I can't remember exactly, but.
And you know what he's talking about.
What?
World Between Worlds.
No.
Dude, because, well, listen to what is in Thrawn's Star Destroyer.
Is that what he's after?
That's what that's somebody theorized that, because Thrawn took a gate, or not Thrawn. Yeah, Thrawn has a gate for a Jedi temple gate on his Star Destroyer that Ezra destroys at the last episode, which would be the World Between Worlds.
I'm wondering if it was more like I was saying at the start of this episode, I keep wanting to pull Heir to the Empire references, and this is one of them, that Baylan is actually influenced by Jorah Sabath from Heir to the Empire. So what he's really thinking about is that he's going to be the next emperor or something. Like a Force user needs to be at the top, and that's going to be me when Thrawn arrives.
And he can get to that mountain.
Yeah, Mount Tannis, and
with all the crap in it.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, like, is he just going to become more crazy as things progress, as we get further into the story?
What if Baylan turns into that guy?
Jorah Sabath?
Yeah. What if some kind of way he turns into him?
He's a clone of.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he has the white hair.
Yeah, he's probably not.
Dude, I'm just throwing it. Right now, all we're doing is throwing stuff on a wall and see what sticks. It's too soon in the season to even know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. We cut back to Corellia, and Hera's already there, and they go navigate through the shipyard. They're pulling apart ships as the New Republic has ordered. They want to demilitarize the entire galaxy, which means to strip down all the Imperial stuff and not use it, like we saw in that one episode of The Mandalorian where the guy was upset that they're just throwing away all this tech.
Right.
Harrison did ask, because they're getting through the they're on a transport, like a wheeled transport, as they're making their way from one end of the shipyard to the other before they go to the control room. And Harrison was wondering if that was the ship from Rise of the Resistance, because it did have that triangled head at the front. Unlike Rise of the Resistance, these were kind of, the seats were facing each other. They weren't facing forward. So it's nice.
Go ahead.
It's a nice detail if it's truly inspired by Rise of the Resistance.
It has to be, because it was in the back of my mind. You kind of get your spidey senses tingling a little bit. You're like, I recognize that.
Yeah.
So I think, dude, the way Dave, you know how Dave Filoni is. He's like, oh, I read that in a book once. Let me put it in my show.
Hera does ask. So they were going back and forth, and Hera, being the motherly, kind of pushes Ahsoka, because Ahsoka was saying that Sabine wasn't ready, and Hera asks, when will someone be ready for training? Like, when do you know? And Ahsoka replies, they just know. And so does the apprentice, which is important because of what happens at the end of the episode.
Right.
Huyang and Sabine are together, and he makes a comment about how little her aptitude for the Force is. So it's very, very small, which was like, yeah, I didn't even know she had it.
Right. That was like, I've trained thousands of Jedi in my thousands of years, or hundreds of Jedi in my thousands of years, and your aptitude for the Force is less than all of them.
Yeah.
So it was like, if she knows the Force, it is very, very little.
Yeah. That's part of the catch up for us. Like, wait a minute, she had Force powers?
Right. And they never really, it never got explained. And maybe, her and her and Ahsoka found it at one point or so. I don't know. I think it was, hey, I want to learn to use a lightsaber, or hey, I have Ezra's lightsaber, I want to learn to use it. And then it was discovered, oh, you have a little bit of Force power. And that's the way it was discovered. But I guess we'll see sometime in there.
In the control center, Hera notices a refurbished hyperdrive, and she's like, what's that for? What ship is that for? What class? And the dude was like, this is classified. The dude that's working the control center, or he's sort of the manager for the whole plan.
Yeah, and that dude, that guy, that actor, that's the role he plays, is like the bad guy going good, or the good guy, the bad guy that's pretending to be a good guy. So I was like, that's the guy right there.
So, yeah. And so it turns out that the whole engine is being shipped off to some place in the opposite side of the galaxy, Cetos, and they need to stop it from going. So Ahsoka races through the windows to try to chase it down, while Hera goes to the Phantom 2 to try to shoot it down, or stop it, not shoot it down. Chopper at one point asks, why don't you just shoot it down? And she replies that there's people down there and they can get injured. So
now they mentioned Chopper. I want to say now, it's either I can either understand him better because I've watched Rebels so many times, or they've made him more understandable. I don't know which one it is.
No, I think it's the first one, because I didn't understand everything he said.
Okay.
Some of it's like, go, go, go.
Right. And then it's like, did you mess with my stuff? No, I didn't mess with your stuff. Well, where's my stuff? And
yeah, I love that. I love Chopper and
that back and forth was awesome. It was right back to Rebels.
Yeah. But as we cut back to Ahsoka racing after the hyperdrive, Marrok is there with one of the HK assassin droids. There's a cool fight between them. At one point, Marrok throws his double-bladed lightsaber at her, and she does that cool move where she slightly moves out of the way to narrowly miss the lightsaber as it flies by her face. But he does have a lot of skill. He is very formidable because he went up against Ahsoka, and I'm measuring that against. I know Ahsoka went up against Darth Vader and nearly died, but she still went up against him for a while. So you have to be pretty skilled to do that.
Right.
Chopper is able to throw a tracking device in the transport before it shoots off into hyperspace. And Sabine we cut back to the communication tower, and she's pulling out her armor, and Glen's tearing up, and she's got on her shoulder.
Oh, yes.
On her shoulder, she's repainted a Purgle in memory of Ezra.
I wish they would have shown her painting up her armor instead of it just being painted, but whatever.
I saw it as more of something she did years ago.
Yeah.
She hasn't touched it, and now she's touching it for the first time, and that's why she's got this whole religious kind of ceremony where she's laying it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Sabine,
was a pretty much shot-for-shot remake of when Kanan cuts his hair.
Yeah, so she takes a viral blade and she cuts off her hair and makes it really short as we see it in the epilogue of Rebels.
Funny how that works.
We cut to Ahsoka back on her ship, and Sabine is there in holo projector mode, and all she says is, "I'm ready," which goes back to what Hera was asking: when will someone know that they're ready? And they'll just know.
Right.
And so we cut to this scene where Sabine's in full armor saying, "I'm ready. Let's go."
Well, and we missed sort of something when she was talking to the droid in the hospital, and the droid was like, "What's the droid's name?"
Yang.
Hu Yang was like, "Why haven't you kept up with your training?" She's like, "Well, I just don't." She didn't want to do it, and I don't want to waste your time. And he's like, "Well, the only time you're wasting is yours." And you're just like, I think that set the light bulb off in her.
Yeah.
So that was sort of a very cool. There's life moments in Star Wars. There's life lessons in Star Wars, and that was a life lesson for Star Wars. He was just like, forget about the past and move on, and you're only wasting your time. And it's just like, crap. You're right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ahsoka goes back to Lothal, and it's exactly all the shots from the epilogue. So that tells us that we're finally past the Rebels ending. You know,
Right.
Everything that happens from this point on is new, sort of explored space.
Yeah.
We cut back to the Cetos. So Ahsoka and Sabine, they take off in her starship towards Cetos. That's where the tracker led them to. And so we cut to Cetos, and that's where the Eye of Sign is being built, which is a major hyperdrive ring. It's still in construction, but it's nearing completion. And I would imagine from Cetos, they just shoot out across the galaxies to where Thrawn is. They just dock with his Star Destroyer and they send it back. It's probably disabled or something.
Yeah.
Now that we're done with this whole thing, I just wanted to bring up a couple things that were bothering me.
Yeah.
The map thing.
I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm
the map to find Thrawn. It's like there's two aspects to it, and I don't like it. Either it's artificial, that someone developed this whole scheme to put Thrawn in prison or something, but I'm going to leave this map if you want to find him.
Yeah.
The way they were positioning, I'm sure it's just a map that leads to this other galaxy. It just so happens Thrawn is there, and so people are just calling it the map to Thrawn. No, it's not.
Well, it's the same thing like with Luke Skywalker. It's like, why would you have a map to go to Luke Skywalker if you didn't want to be found? So go ahead.
They kept calling him in exile. So, so artificial. That's weird. If it's just a coincidence, it's a pretty big coincidence, unless it's just it leads to both this place and Thrawn. But people are just saying it's Thrawn. What was I going to say before? So that's one issue I have. The other issue, I forget. It'll come to me in a second.
All right. Do you, so with them going off to another galaxy, do you think we're finally going to see the Vrog? Is it Vrog or the people from
like I don't know.
The alien, the pug-like aliens from like the Thrawn Ascendancy? We're going to start. Are we going to see the Ascendancy?
Well, in one of the Thrawn books, he talks about the early hyperdrive people. They used the Force. They didn't have navicomputers.
Right.
So they relied on people with the Force abilities to be able to stop the ships in time so they don't go into a star or to a planet. You know, they're using the Force to direct them. So I'm wondering if this is where the Force originated from, or people who were masters of the Force came from. That's what I'm wondering.
And you know, you remember what those people were called?
What? Frog people?
Skywalkers.
Where's that from?
It's from Thrawn Ascendancy. Those people were called Skywalkers. That's what they called them, was Skywalkers.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. Yes, it's vaguely familiar.
Sorry. I gave up. I think I read the first trilogy and then gave up halfway through the second trilogy because it was so dense. It is just a lot of military, and a lot of the book is like 3 inches thick, and it's very overwhelming. Did you read them? Or?
No, I've only read the first one, I believe.
Yeah.
But I did like it, and I did like where the show's heading. It did feel Star Wars to me. I like the design of Lothal. I like the design of Ahsoka's ship. I like that they brought in the Clone Wars and Rebels in the original trilogy. I'm interested to see where it goes from here. So I think something's going to happen in episode 5. Sorry, my throat. What's going on with my throat? I think something happens in
up because you're figuring out Dave Filoni is.
He's gonna direct episode 5. Talks amongst yourselves.
I think that's when we're gonna see Thrawn.
I think that's when we're going to see Anakin. Hayden Christensen's in the show, so whether he's Marrok as a clone of Anakin, or whether
we didn't even bring that one up.
We get a flashback of there's a bunch of implications there too. Like, can she save this version of Anakin, or because she couldn't save the last version? That's me tying back into Heir to the Empire, where there was cloning going on. So, but yeah, we'll see. Oh,
yeah,
I had a point. I lost it.
You've been doing that, dude. Am I just messing you up?
I don't know. I didn't sleep well last night, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, no, there is going to be a major plot twist in episode 5. I'm thinking we're going to see
flashback.
Okay, I didn't think about the flashback, but I thought Thrawn. But it'll be something. It's something major with Dave Filoni directing that. We're going to see it. I was joking with Chance this morning, and I'm like, what's going to happen is Zeb and Callus are going to come back together, and they're going to kiss, and we're going to find out they're a couple. That's what's going to happen in episode 5.
No, we'll see some lesson Anakin gave her in the Clone Wars be applicable to what she's doing today with Sabine and the hunt for Thrawn. Do we see a flashback of Rex back then? So we got a Rex, a live action Rex. Because
isn't there rumor that he's in it too?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of potential in the show. I'm interested to see where it goes. One thing I keep forgetting to mention on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to, is that Filoni's not afraid of exploring that weird, funky side of the Force.
Yeah.
So will we see any of that kind of stuff?
And with us going to that other galaxy, this is a way that all of a sudden you're like, well, there they are. When Empire was when Battle of Yavin and everything was happening there, or actually Battle of Yavin's already happened in this show, but they can get away from a lot of stuff. They can get away from the Star Wars we know, and that's a way of explaining it. Like, oh, they're in this other galaxy, dealing with Thrawn, and so it doesn't have to tie into any Star Wars lore that we know, and they can basically rewrite Star Wars.
Yeah. So
I'm pretty excited for that, because like we've been saying, the Skywalker saga is very stale, and we need some fresh breath.
I also want to see the Ghost.
Wars.
We haven't seen much of the Ghost. I want to see the Ghost in action. I'm sure Hasbro right now wants to see the Ghost in action too. So we can sell
Hasbro wants to see the Ghost so they can. It was funny, so they can get those numbers up. But I mean, it was like the very first day that show was on, it did bounce about 1,000 backers, because it did. Ezra got funded, but it's like, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know. Like I said, I've never watched a HasLab, so I don't know what things are going, but
there'll be a spike at the end, and we'll get to Zeb at least.
I really hope. And it does. And I'm curious with them saying, oh, we're going to release, Sabine and Chopper at one point. It's like, how are you going to release it? Are you going to give everybody that backed the Ghost the first option to buy it? And are you going to make enough for everybody that backed the Ghost to get it if they want it, and then release it to the general public? Or are you just going to release it and whoever wants one gets one?
Yes, it's the latter.
So they better freaking make enough of them, or at least
it'll be a wide release. There'll be enough.
Yeah, there better be, because I don't want to have, it'll be very upsetting. And it better be a season 4 Sabine, not Jedi Hunter Sabine. Go ahead.
Distinctively said it's going to match the mural.
Okay, good
thing. So it's going to be a season 4 Rebels version of Sabine. That'll be part of it.
Good.
So yeah.
All right, cool. I guess I can kind of do my thoughts real quick, because I actually wrote something down. Jason, are you excited?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, let's go. I said, all right, so here's what I wrote. It wasn't as emotional for me as I thought it would be. I still had my moments, like when you saw Hera for the first time, and when you see Sabine finally realizing her calling and cutting the hair in that remake of the epilogue. Because that epilogue, no matter what, for me, it's just very emotional. I did enjoy the way they introduced Sabine, punk rock rebel, and doesn't really want the fame, that they're trying to throw at her. Here you are, you've been, what? She's kind of like, as Han Solo was kind of like that too, wasn't he? A little bit, just the rebel attitude. Yeah. And she just, wanted to be left alone, and still was hurt at the loss of Ezra and the betrayal of Ahsoka. But it was a fun start to the show. I know there's going to be a lot more tears, man, because that is just that when they show the ghost and when they show Jason, that's going to be pretty emotional because they've teased Jason, but not a whole lot, and yeah, that's it. That's
Cool.
Yeah, it should have been more. I'm sorry. It's just
No, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. You're good. I'm glad to know that it resonated with you.
It did, dude. I enjoyed it. I knew it was going to be a slow start to the season because they had to put some groundwork down. And I think they an hour and a half, they got a lot of ground covered. And unlike, with Mandalorian, you didn't know which way he was going to go because they laid out like 5 or 6 paths for the Mandalorian in season 3. And in this one, it's like, this is the path we're going. And I was fine with both of them. Okay. I think I would have been more upset if they would have done that with this show. Here's 5 paths that we're going to go down, because now we know, because somebody, I think I was listening to Force of Course, Ted was kind of concerned that they were going to deal with Rebels and be done with it in like 2 or 3 episodes. And this just proves that, no, we're in it for the long haul. The Rebels crew will be here the whole show.
Yes, we will. We're good.
So I'm looking forward to seeing some Chopper too. I want to see some more Chopper. I was a little upset that Chopper was not following Hera around and he was just stuck in the Phantom. But it was, I think they nailed that Chopper. That live action Chopper is freaking perfect.
So we'll see more next week or this week. I guess it's going to drop every Tuesday at 9:00 Eastern Standard Time, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Don't have to dodge social media all day.
And I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m. And I don't have to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Smugglers Galaxy Podcast. If you could, please leave a like and a 5-star review of the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. If it's allowed, it really helps us out. It points people to our show. You can follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Send us an email or message us. We love feedback. We'd love to make you part of the show. Our email address is smugglersgalaxy@gmail.com. Thank you to Alfonso Riviera for the Smugglers Galaxy logo. And thank you to Levi Waterhouse for the music. People, collect for the love of it. #vote with your wallet. Sabine will be on next week. Pass on what you've learned. Be a positive force in the collected community. This is the way.
Back the ghost. This is the way.